The new Chevrolet Traverse is big. It's boxy. It's borderline stately. From the front, you could almost mistake it for a truck, but instead, it is a cushy, 3-row SUV with second-row captain's chairs. And it's pretty cool, honestly. This is the Traverse High Country, and I'm Alanis King. Today, I want to walk you through 5 things I love about this vehicle and 1 thing I don't love so much. So let's go for a drive, and stick around for the end of this video to get this Traverse's full report card. But before we do that, let's get a little background on the Chevy Traverse. The production Traverse has been around since 2008, which was a wild time to launch a vehicle given the recession and gas prices in America. But that car stuck around for a decade, and it was very rounded in shape, kind of like the Malibu at the time. The second generation Traverse debuted for 2018, and it had a more rectangular body. MotorTrend gave it a bunch of praise, saying it was quiet and comfortable and had ample storage, but there was one knock. The third row was not super comfortable. But when I think of 3-row SUVs, I usually don't think of them prioritizing the third row anyway. You're usually crammed back there. This is the 3rd generation of the Traverse, and it's basically brand new. It debuted for 2024 with a standard turbocharged 4-cylinder engine on every trim, a column-mounted shifter, and the ability to option General Motors' hands-free driving technology, Super Cruise, which I absolutely love. For 2025, the Chevy Traverse starts at $42,000. That base trim is called the LT, and it comes with cloth seats and no standard Super Cruise. Above that, we have the Z71 off-road trim, the fancy high country trim, and the RS sporty trim. And most Traverses that you can get, you can option in either front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. This 2025 Traverse High Country I'm driving is front-wheel drive, and the window sticker on this car says it starts at $53,600 American dollars, and there are 0 optional extras on this car, meaning you only pay a delivery fee of $1,400, bringing your total price to $55,000. But the price of this vehicle has changed since that window sticker was printed. In the Chevy configurator, this car now starts at $55,195 for the front-wheel drive version. That plus the delivery fee brings you almost to $57,000 American dollars. This 2025 Chevy Traverse has a turbocharged 2.5-liter 4-cylinder engine that makes 328 horsepower and 326 pound-feet of torque. That power goes through an 8-speed automatic transmission to the front wheels. And some interesting things about this particular car is that that engine comes from Mexico, the transmission is from the United States, and the final assembly point is in Michigan. Before we get to the main show, which is 5 things I love about this Chevy Traverse and 1 thing I don't love so much, we have 2 more orders of business. The first is, how many Alanises can fit in this Chevy Traverse High Country's trunk? We've got the 3rd row up, and we're just gonna squeeze on in here. I say squeeze, but I don't really have to. It's nice. Wow. 3rd row up, this is a solid 2 Alanises, and we can basically sit straight up. Our second and final order of business is, isn't this a good shirt? It is part of a new collection from my sponsor, Home Field Apparel. We have all this cool stuff like the Goodwrench Racing shirts, you can get Hendrick Motorsports merch, and if you like college sports, Home Field has all kinds of stuff like that too. Anything from Home Field is 20% off your first order with the code ALANIS20. The first thing I love about this Chevy Traverse High Country, and love, I am not exaggerating, is Super Cruise. Super Cruise is GM's hands-free driving technology. So my hands are off the wheel because we are super cruising. And basically what Super Cruise does is Super Cruise takes the existing vehicle technology, all the cameras, all of the sensors, everything like that, that makes a picture of what's around the vehicle for the Traverse, and it pairs it with mapping of specific roads. In the US and Canada, there are about 750,000 miles of mapped roads. Last time I did a Super Cruise review on this channel, there are about 400,000 miles of mapped roads advertised by GM. Super Cruise is an incredible system, and if you buy a new car with Super Cruise, it will be on that car complimentary for 3 years. After that, it becomes a monthly subscription fee, which honestly makes sense. It's an ever-evolving technology. They're constantly mapping more roads and improving the technology. So it would make sense why they wouldn't sell you a car and just let you have Super Cruise technology forever. It's one of those things where it costs money to keep Super Cruise going, so eventually you're gonna have to charge customers for it too. Do I think everyone needs Super Cruise? No, I think not everyone drives on the highway all the time, therefore not everyone needs it. But if you drive on highways a lot, Super Cruise is so freaking good. It will revolutionize your life, and I highly recommend it. The second thing I love about this Chevy Traverse is the exterior styling, because I think this vehicle commits to one aesthetic, and that aesthetic is boxy truck. You have that really truck-like front grille, and then it just continues that all the way to the back. The first generation Traverse was very round, very crossover looking. The second generation mixed a boxy, more square back end with a rounded crossover front, and this just goes full truck. And whether you like it or not, you gotta admit that they committed. The High Country has this really trucky front end with the chrome accent on the grille, and it just looks really nice. You basically mix a trucky front with a minivan interior, and that's kind of cool. The Traverse also greets you when you bring the key fob up to it. Watch me unlock it, and how these taillights do a little progressive light up. The last thing I want to talk about on the exterior styling is something that I think probably goes under-noticed and underrated, and that is the paint job on this Traverse. This color is called Lakeshore Blue Metallic, and the color is not the most out there wild thing in the world, but it is a really nice looking color. And what really impresses me is the actual paint job, the process laid down right here. This clear coat is really flat and looks nice. I don't see really any orange peel on it, and you would think, Alanis, it's an automaker, they're painting. There shouldn't be any orange peel. You'd be surprised how much orange peel there is on new cars. This paint job just looks really, really nice, and you're not gonna find much wrong with it, and I appreciate that. The third thing I love about this Chevy Traverse is this giant screen. And I know what you're thinking, Alanis, how dare you? We're against screens, we want buttons. And yeah, I respect that, but this is a really good screen. This display we have is a digital driver instrument cluster and a digital infotainment screen. And General Motors' current setup for this is so good. This display is super fast, watch. It swipes like a tablet. It's super crisp. It has everything in there that you could need, and it is really easy to navigate. I can go from Apple CarPlay to my cameras, to anything else I could possibly need, my climate, maintenance about the car, everything like that. This screen also sits really low. It doesn't stick up like a giant tablet, which is a complaint in a lot of new cars. It fits really well into the interior styling, and it looks nice. You also have a lot of different things you can do in here. I can go to vehicle status and I can check what needs maintenance. You've got this display for your brake pad life. All of this stuff is really good for normal car buyers who need basic information about their car. It's super useful. And not only that, but we also have some cool little features in here, like second row climate. Let's say you've got some kids back there and they're acting up and they want to make you mad. So they've got it full blast on heat in the middle of the summer. You can go, we're not doing that, and lock the second row climate so they can't mess with it anymore. I absolutely love that. Not only do we have that, but we also have this super crisp Apple CarPlay display. Everything in here looks really nice. And if you're not a touchscreen person, that's fine, because your most used controls are probably going to be climate anyway, and you can just press the buttons down here. The fourth thing I love about this Chevy Traverse is the interior styling. When I got into a Chevy Colorado a few months ago, I remember getting in and thinking, wow, the materials and colors in this are just so nice, and they work together really well. And that is a theme throughout a lot of these higher end GM products. The colors in this car and the mixes of material are great. We mix black with gray, with white, with this soft gold tan color and these faux carbon trim pieces that just looks really, really good together. You also have a ton of headroom in this car. There are no sunroofs in this Chevy Traverse, and so I just have all kinds of space above me. And while I don't have the light that comes in through a sunroof above me, I don't really miss it that much either. You also have a lot of good storage in this interior, like a really deep center console. You have an area under the center console spot where you can put bags and stuff like that. You have a thick truck-like steering wheel, and it's just nice up here. It's usable, but also very pretty. The only thing that you could really criticize is that there's a ton of piano black right here in the center console area. And before we started filming this shot, there was like this line of greasy stuff on the piano black. And I went to try to rub it out to get it off of here so it looked a little better, and I just made it so much worse because that is the reality of piano black. The fifth thing I love about this Chevy Traverse High Country is very short, very sweet, but very important, and it is the camera systems. These cameras not only show you everything you need to see, you can see all these different angles, but also they're super crisp. They look good. Sometimes you get in a car and yeah, you have a bunch of angles on your cameras, but they all look like potatoes. This looks really good, gives you a full view of what's around you, and you also have this aerial 360 that allows you to perfectly park anywhere. You can also, if you want extra cameras, flip your rearview mirror into camera mode back here. So we can have a normal mirror or we can have a camera mirror, and you just have all kinds of sights. We have now reached the one thing I do not love so much about this 2025 Chevy Traverse High Country, and that is that it drives like a front-wheel drive truck. This Traverse specifically is front-wheel drive. You can option it all-wheel drive. I have not driven the all-wheel drive version. But it's very interesting because this Traverse is like a lot of crossovers. It has a unibody construction. When you have that body and that frame together, it is more car-like. It is more efficient. It is just not truck-like. It doesn't have that off-road flexibility that you would get from a body-on-frame vehicle or the capability of towing more, right? But unibody constructions are usually more comfortable to drive in commuting settings because they're more car-like. This drives like a body-on-frame truck. And what I mean by that is when you're in a body-on-frame truck and it is a large vehicle, it kind of feels like Frankenstein, like you're just doing all these big stomps and you're heaving the vehicle around. This is unibody and it has those negatives and I don't love it. But not only that, it drives like a front-wheel drive truck. So when I put the power down, I can very much feel that this is a front-wheel drive vehicle and it's not fast. So I'm putting the power down, it's not going anywhere, and it just feels very front-wheel drive, and it sounds like a front-wheel drive economy car, which is odd because this is a very nice vehicle. It's luxurious in here, but I have that just grunting of the engine and I'm not going anywhere, and it feels super front-wheel drive. So I just get that front-wheel drive economy car feeling mixed with the truck swayiness, like when I'm braking right there and I lean forward. It is very odd, and it's almost like the vehicle doesn't know how it wants to drive, what kind of personality it wants to have while driving. I will say this is a negative for me. I drive a lot of cars. So do I want a unibody 3-row crossover SUV to drive like a truck? No, because I understand that truck driving is not my favorite experience, that big body on frame truck driving. It's just not what I love to do in the city. But do I also recognize that someone who buys this vehicle actually probably wants it to be kind of truck-like? Yeah, I do. And maybe they also want it to drive like a truck, and I'm not gonna fault them. Now that we've driven the 2025 Chevy Traverse, it's time to give it a grade. Welcome to Alanis's report card. The exterior on the Traverse gets an A-, and I think a lot of the ratings in this report card, you could go slightly above or slightly below what I say, depending on if you like the truck aesthetic. And the reason this is not a full A is because maybe you're buying a 3-row SUV and you don't want it to look like a truck. You're getting a truck look with this, and it's a really good truck look, but it may not be for you. The interior also gets an A-. It's wonderful in there. I love being inside of it, but major points off for the fact that there is piano black right in the center console. We could have chosen another material right there. The performance on this Traverse gets a B-, and that is because it drives like a truck with front-wheel drive, which is kind of weird, but it also may be what some people want. Some people buy a Traverse like this because they want it to look like a truck, and maybe they want it to drive like a truck too. That is not for me to judge. The value on the Traverse gets a B+, and I do think you could go higher than this because of the fact that there is Super Cruise on this vehicle. Sure, there are other three-row SUVs on the market where you could say, I like the features better or the interior better in that one. The Kia Telluride dominates online conversation about three-row SUVs because it's really, really beautiful. But Super Cruise is a very specific value in the Traverse that I think is wonderful. If you do highway driving, that's kind of it. So I wouldn't fault you if you wanted the value to be an A right here. Would I take this Traverse on a road trip? Yes, 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 yes. So many times over. If I had to take a road trip, I would probably schedule something with Super Cruise because it is so good. And overall, the Traverse gets a B+. It is a really good vehicle. There are just a couple of things we could change. The 2025 Chevy Traverse has a lot going for it, and that is led by some of the best technology in the American auto industry right now, Super Cruise. If you're someone who drives a lot, and Americans love driving a lot, that is something to pay attention to. The three-row SUV market is absolutely stacked, and it is hyper-competitive, meaning we get pretty good products. It's really up to you what your vibe, your aesthetic, and your driving experience is, and what SUV fits that. The Traverse just makes a lot of good arguments.